A warm welcome to another Essential Quinn analysis video. Today my topic is looking at the UK's energy support scheme for the period October 22 to March 23, and we'll also look at gas market prices during that period. Now, to start with, let's look at a gas bill, because it's very common today that nobody actually sees their energy bills because everybody has an online account, and unless you download them and print them off, then you will never actually see the detail of your bills. This is the gas element of a typical bill. There will be an electric element as well. Now, what we see here is that the consumption of gas used is some 367 cubic meters in this charging period. Gas is supplied in cubic meters, but it is actually converted into energy density or energy kilowatt hours using this formula that you will see on your bill here. So that we can see that the charge rate is currently 16.174 pence per kilowatt hour. That rate is now set by the government rather than the energy company. And we also see that there is a price guarantee rate of 6.42 pence per kilowatt hour. And that translates to these figures we see here. The bill also has other elements, such as the standing charge, which is a quite small element now. There's a little bit of VAT at 5%, giving a total charge for the gas. Now, we also have on the bill a further part of the government's energy support scheme, this being what was announced last September, when every household would receive a subsidy of some £400. Now, whereas this subsidy shown here as a rate of 6.42 pence per kilowatt hour is a unit-based subsidy, the other subsidy, the £400 or £67 a month, is just a flat rate per household. Now, the interesting thing about the UK's energy support scheme is that, in effect, the more energy you use, the more subsidy you will get. Now, the government has currently set the typical average house energy bill at the level of £2,500 per year, and this is scheduled to go up in April 23 to a further £3,000 for a typical average home. So in summary, there are two elements to the UK's energy support. One is the flat rate, which is the £67 per month that is reduced from your overall bill, not specific to any energy type, either electric or gas. And then there is the unit support rate, in this case the 6.42 pence per kilowatt hour. And this by far exceeds the flat support significantly. Now, of course, this scheme actually means that the more energy you use, the more subsidy you get from the government. Now, let's look at gas market prices covering the last 10 years to see whether we can make any sense of them. This chart is priced in US dollars per million metric BTUs, another energy unit that gas is supplied in. Now, it so happens that the unit rates here are almost identical to the kilowatt hour prices that we actually are paying. So though this is coincidental, it means that our actual energy prices on our bill are very similar and in line with these chart numbers. Now, if we go back approximately 1 year to January-February 22, the current price of gas charged on domestic customers' bill was running at a level of some 3.797 pence per kilowatt hour. And in early February, in my own case, I was notified that my prices would be doubling for the year ahead. And sure enough, we see that by the end of March, prices had gone up to 6.935 pence per kilowatt hour. Now, in between this time, of course, we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which obviously sent gas prices into great volatility. And we see clearly for the 12 months post the invasion, gas prices have spiked up very high indeed. But let's look at some of these numbers and try and understand them. So as I mentioned, from approximately April 2022, domestic customers were paying a unit rate for gas of 6.935 pence per kilowatt hour. And we can see here that prices have spiked up quite dramatically. But looking at prices over the last 6 months, namely from October 22, we see that between October 22 and December 22, gas prices were charged at a rate of 13.966 pence per kilowatt hour. And from January, the prices increased further to some 16.174 pence per kilowatt hour. Now, we can see here that the average of this range here is perhaps at the 6.5 level. So we are getting an indicator that there's something not quite right between market prices and what is actually being charged. Let's look now at the numbers for a typical average energy consumer household. The numbers are set out between October 22 through to March 23. Obviously, March at this stage is an estimate, but based on previous usage levels and current energy rates. Now, it's more interesting to look at the combination of the combined bill, both gas and electricity, and look at the combined level of energy support. What we see here in this typical household, total charges for the 6-month period of some £3,669. But that has actually been subsidised by some £1,648, netting the customer to a payment level of some £2,000 odd. So the government is picking up 45% of the energy prices, and the customer is picking up 55% of the prices in this instance. We see here that this line is the flat support that the government announced last September at some £400 per household, but they quickly announced a further support on a per kilowatt hour basis, and we see this level here. Obviously, the flat support is dwarfed by the support generated by the price guarantee. And as I said earlier, most people are oblivious to this level of government support because most people today do not look at their bills. Now, in terms of overall support, what does this mean? If we take this house as being, say, a typical one, and we have some 28 million households in the UK, this level of energy support means the government has funded domestic energy bills to the tune of some £46 billion in just 6 months. In addition, there is a business support scheme as well, which is capped at some 18 billion, and that leaves the overall support level for these 6 months at some £64 billion. So let's look again at our chart of gas prices over the last 10 years. One of the things I think we need to observe is that the price increases that we have experienced in the UK market do not quite seem in line with the increases that we're viewing in this graph. For example, if we take an average of the period following Russia's invasion of Ukraine at around the 6.5 level, we can actually see that compared to the February of 22 price level of some 3.8 pence per kilowatt hour, that would be a differential of 1.71 times greater. However, what we're actually seeing comparing prices like we see here between October and December 22 at 13.966 and now currently at 16.174 pence, we actually have increases of some 4.26 times before the government support and 2.57 times after government support. So it's very clear that the prices that the domestic customer pays is not really in line with how the market prices are going. Of course, we know that market prices and how our energy is supplied are not perfectly aligned. We know our energy suppliers have to buy forward 3 or 6 months at a time, and the strike price at any given time may be much higher or much lower than what this chart indicates. But looking at these numbers, it's very clear that UK energy prices are now centrally controlled. Market prices are set by the government, not by the energy companies. And there's a clear desire by the government to almost use energy prices as quasi-taxation for the purpose of funding its net zero programs, funding wind farms, funding solar, which are all a great deal more expensive than typical gas supplies. So let's end with a summary of the key points. The typical UK household is in receipt of some £1,650 of energy price support between October 22 and March 23. This energy support scheme is costing the government some £64 billion, which of course is being funded entirely by government borrowing. However, prices charged by energy suppliers are greatly in excess of actual market prices, as we have seen from the charts. And the fact that our energy suppliers and key energy companies are recording record profits in the region of 3 and 4 times greater than any other period confirms that the market prices charged to the customer are in no way reflective. And we see that the government have set the price for energy for domestic customers at a further increase from the 1st of April, with the typical bill expected to go from £2,500 to £3,000. I hope you found this video interesting and the facts informative. We live in difficult and confusing times. Many are struggling emotionally, financially, without hope for the future. This is not how we should live. I hope these important words from the Bible will encourage you today. Thank you for watching.